What's up, ladies and gents? Welcome back to Red Band Cast here on the Red Band Cast YouTube channel. I know it's been a long time, but I wanted to make a quick video, sort of explaining a couple things about why I haven't been there in a while. I also have to speak a little lightly. People are sleeping. And I just wanted to let you know that the reason that I haven't been on here very often is I've been busy, classes, stuff like that. Try and get on here and do stuff. Plus, I've been going through a lot of spiritual growth lately, trying to decide what forms of entertainment are actually good for me to watch, good for me to listen to, good for me to read spiritually. And I have come to the conclusion that under certain guidelines, most stuff can be good and used to grow me spiritually as well as to just give me entertainment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of to get back into the swing of things. I'm going to do a series this summer. I'm going to call it 80s Horror Summer because I'm going to try and get back into 80s horror in a big way. But one thing about this is that it's going to have to fit a mold. Maybe unfortunately for some of my viewers. I know I don't have many, but some of those viewers know that I enjoy certain types of horror films. I may not be able to watch the same types. And here's sort of the mold that I want them to fit into. Number one, they have to be free of nudity. Nudity is a big stumbling block for me as far as a content to movies and stuff like that. So they have to be free of that. So that's number one. Number two is that they have to, in some way, enrich me. So that'll be the types of movies that I'm watching as far as like stuff that I've already seen. Now, I am going to also do, as part of this series, I'm going to watch some films that I haven't seen thus far. And I'm actually going to review one of those for you tonight. I guess if you've seen the title of the video, you know what that is. But I'm going to try and find movies that enrich me somehow and are artful in some way and also speak to me in certain ways. Now, of course, there are movies that are just going to be fun, but for the most part, I'm going to try for even those fun movies to get something out of them. So, yeah. Basically what I'm going to do in this series is I'm going to review every week, at least once a week, a new movie that I have not seen. New to me, that is. It's got to be from the 1980s, but it's got to be new to me. And it's got to be something I've never seen or at one point saw and didn't really get all the way through it, or wasn't paying attention or only half interested or something like that. Has to be something like that. So the first one, for example, for tonight is The Final Terror, which I'll start talking about here in a minute. And the first, also what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to review one movie per week that I have seen already or that I own. And the one that's going to be either this week, starting this week or next week, I may only do The Final Terror this week. But at least one movie review per week, so there you go, in this series. But the one is The Changeling, which I'm going to try and watch tonight. Underrated George C. Scott helmed film. Very, very good movie from what I remember, although I didn't get all the way to the end. But yeah, really, really good movie. I'm going to see if I can watch that tonight. But first, I should review 1983's The Final Terror. And this is going to be a brief review because I wanted to give this sort of introduction to the series, and I also wanted to get in this first review just because it was sort of, The Final Terror was the first movie that I had watched that was like pure horror, like in a long time, especially 80s horror. I mean, I'd watched a few of the 30s, at 30s and 40s Universal horror movies, but I hadn't seen any 80s horror in a while, so there you go. Final Terror. Now, I want to go ahead and say I caught this on Vudu. It's free to view on Vudu. If you guys have a Vudu account, you can watch The Final Terror for free. And I'm going to say up front, I recommend if you're a slasher completist like I at least used to be, and still maybe am now. If you're a slasher completist, definitely try and check out The Final Terror. However, I will let you know, I did not enjoy this movie all that much. The Final Terror to me was really a very dull, backwoods slasher, kind of a really stupid version of Just Before Dawn. And it was made, I think, a year before Just Before Dawn. Actually, this was made at the height of the slasher craze in the 80s, 1981, but it was shelved for several years because they couldn't find somebody to distribute it. And it makes sense as to why they had to shelve it. It's really quite a dull, bad movie. There's hardly any music in it, first off, and that can be a plus for some movies. I mean, there's basically no score in No Country for Old Men and no score in Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, and those are both fantastic films. The Birds is, of course, a great horror film. Doesn't work for a dumb backwoods slasher from the early 80s. This came out in 1983, 2 years after it was supposed to come out in 81. But I don't know, it feels even more dated. It feels like a 70s movie, and it doesn't measure up to a lot of the 70s era slashers that came out. So, I mean, it doesn't even measure up as far as that's concerned. The cinematography is really bare bones and not very good. There are a few shots that are kind of interesting, but there's not really any kind of interplay with colors or particularly good interplay with lighting. Most of the lighting was done natural, especially at nighttime, which makes the nighttime scenes very hard to see, even with an updated Blu-ray transfer from Shout Factory. But a new transfer, even on that, transferred over to Vudu, still not very good. The characters are pretty bare bones, and really you don't get any character development throughout the movie. Maybe one or two characters get development, but really they're very, very one note, very one-dimensional, not even two-dimensional, but one. Not very good characters. None of the characters are likable either. They're all jerks, and I mean, again, that can work, but they have to be sort of like likable jerks in a way. I mean, Big Trouble in Little China is filled with jerks in a way, but also some nice guys. But your main character is kind of a jerk, but you like him because he's just silly. With these guys, it feels like they're trying to be silly, but it ends up just really backfiring in their faces, and it just doesn't work. The writing's pretty bad. There's not a shred of really good dialogue, like, at all. The acting can be okay at times, but especially the opening scene, the two actors in the opening scene that get axed. Spoiler alert, sorry, I guess. Really horrible actors. Yeah, there's a lot of really bad stuff wrong with this movie. There was no nudity, so I was happy about that. I don't like nudity in my horror movies, nor do I like them, especially in my slasher movies, because I feel like that's really something that slasher movies lean on too much. The kills are not very good. Some of the gore after the fact, as far as, seeing dead bodies laying around, not too bad. Some of it's pretty good. but other parts just, again, don't work for me. Any of the kills that you see on screen, I can't even remember if you can see any of them on screen. It really feels kind of like April Fool's Day, but it doesn't go for the same kind of cool April Fool's Day concepts. Yeah, overall, I was pretty disappointed in this movie. Not a very good opening foray into 80s horror, but I can say one good thing about it. The opening title sequence and the closing title sequence have a really cool song playing over it, sort of inspired by White Wedding by Billy Idol. So that's some cool stuff, and that's about all I can say. So thanks for watching, guys. Rock on if you like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. I'm going to watch The Changeling and get back to you guys on that either tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, or sometime next week. But I will be taking notes. Hopefully I'll have a good review up of this. But rock on if you like, subscribe. Talk to you later. Thanks for watching, and bye.